Hello, everyone, and welcome to Getting to Know the Garnet. I'm your host, Brandon Hodnett, and today I'm joined by Swarthmore men's soccer head coach Eric Wagner. Eric has been at Swarthmore since 2002 and has won 197 games with Swarthmore. Last season, the Garnet hosted the Sweet 16 and were ranked 16th overall. Eric, thank you for joining me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Brandon.
So, Eric, I noticed your background here, and we're talking about the Sweet 16 last year. What was that like for you? That atmosphere was electric, in my opinion. What was it like for you on the field, in that game, hosting in front of our home crowd?
That's definitely going to go down in my personal memories as one of the best of all time. It was just such a great crowd, just such a great atmosphere. Like you said, it was electric. There was so much energy, positive energy from both sides. And the crowd was definitely the largest that I've coached in front of here at Swarthmore. And I really didn't even notice the size of the crowd until, and we felt the energy throughout, but I didn't notice the size of the crowd until halftime when we took a break and I was able to catch my breath, and I just took a peek around as we were walking into the team room. And I was really blown away by how big the crowd was and how many people were there. So it was pretty awesome.
Last year, it was just an incredible ride for the team. There was a lot of uncertainty about the playoffs and everything, but what was your team's mentality going into, NCAA selection show, and then their mentality after making the tournament and, they kept winning these close games? What was the team's mentality through that run?
It was a real roller coaster ride. I mean, we finished the regular season on a loss, which for all we knew was the end of the season because we didn't make the conference playoffs, and that should have been it. And there was a lot of really sober and disappointment in the post game that day. And then over the next couple of days, the coaching staff and the players started to realize, well, maybe there's a possibility here because our regional ranking through the NCAA was still very high. And I had the opportunity to speak with one of the people on the committee just because I wanted to know if it made sense for us to continue training and to just be ready. And that person told me that absolutely we should stay focused on potentially getting a bid. He didn't guarantee anything by any means, but so through the week after the end of the regular season, leading up to the conference tournament, which we weren't going to be in, there was a real question mark, but a lot of hope and anticipation and just, some optimism in the team. We trained really well that week. And then we had a reserve team match scheduled against Muhlenberg College because they were in a similar situation. They had the potential for an ECAC bid, even though they didn't make the conference tournament either, but they had a very strong schedule, good record, and ECACs were certainly a likelihood for them. So as the week wore on, we got more and more excited, but still very much nervous. And then finally, we played on Saturday, and then on Sunday and Monday, it was just a waiting game. And I think the thing that was most interesting to me was that as they read the names of the teams in the NCAA tournament, they went through an entire half of the bracket, and we still weren't called. And other teams in our conference had been called, and we just felt that time was wasting away, and we were not going to get called. And that's why, the explosion when we finally heard our names read was just so exuberant and so exciting. And then, as we found out we were in, then we became very focused, and it was all business. And the guys we went to training every day. There was no messing around. Get the job done, get prepared, focus on the next game. And I was really impressed with how our guys managed the trip down to Virginia and the stay in the hotel, getting their work done while they were on the road, and so on and so forth. And even the training session down in Virginia was very, very productive and very focused. So.
And you mentioned the regional ranking being high for the team, and a lot of that is due to your strength of schedule. Obviously, the conference was very good this year, but you had to compile a schedule that was, out of conference schedule that was difficult. A lot of challenging teams in there with good records. What goes into creating the schedule for you, and maybe particularly in this past year, but in general, what kind of things do you consider when you're putting the schedule?
Well, I mean, I really don't have any say in the conference schedule. Obviously, we're going to play all 9 of those teams, and we're just extremely fortunate that the Centennial is so strong. And every year we're going to get at least 3 teams into the NCAAs because our conference is so strong. And all of us try to play a decent out of conference schedule as well. And that's the hard part, is making sure that we get enough teams out of conference that are going to have strong records, so that the strength of schedule numbers come out strong for us. We don't want to play too many strong teams that are going to then, we're going to take a lot of losses. And that's what ultimately happened to a couple of teams in our conference. They finished ahead of us in the conference, but they took losses to teams that were very good out of conference. We were fortunate to finish undefeated out of conference, and we played some very strong teams that finished first or second in their conferences, teams that were also in the NCAAs. And so that really helped us in the long run. And we also got a couple of very good results in conference that helped, tying Hopkins, who ultimately won the conference, got the automatic bid. That helped us in the long run. Would have been even better if we had won, but, it definitely did well. And Gettysburg was ranked in the region, and we had beaten them. So that helped, so there were a few in-conference results that really helped us. And the ones that we lost in conference ultimately were so highly ranked that it didn't hurt us as much as it might have been,
Yeah. Those first 2 NCAA tournament games, both were decided in PKs. I'm sure that has to be nerve-wracking for you as a coach on the sideline. What's going through your mind when your team's in
PKs? That's an interesting one. For me, penalties are not winning or losing the game. Penalties are really about who advances. We played a draw against Roanoke on the first day. We knew that. And to me, it was just like, all right, it's kind of out of my hands now. It's up to the players and up to, kind of the luck of the draw here. How our players manage the pressure and how our players execute what they've practiced. Versus how the other team executes what they practiced. And it really comes down to a little bit of fortune and a little bit of experience. And our players showed a lot of experience and a lot of steel nerves under pressure, which I was really pleased with. For me, it used to be in penalties, just a real white knuckle thing. And I'd just be on the sidelines and I couldn't even watch. And I'd be so nervous I couldn't handle it. But as I've matured a little bit as a coach, and as I've been through the experience multiple times as a coach, what I've come to realize is it's really the confidence that we've trained, the confidence that we've put the players in the position to do the best they can. If they succeed and we advance, great. If they don't, I know we gave it all we had. And that's really, when we were down in Virginia, to me, we were playing with house money anyway. And I felt like advancing was going to be a bonus after the draw on day 1. And again, after the draw on day 2, it was like, wow, this is fantastic. We really are fortunate here.
All right, so Eric, I want to rewind and talk about your path to Swarthmore. I think 2 of your sisters went to Swarthmore, and maybe what was your connection to Swarthmore prior to you arriving here to work?
It was an very interesting experience going through the deliberations and the interview. I had heard about Swarthmore obviously through my sisters and through various, being in the college game and in academia for so long. Ultimately, I really didn't know much about the school until the job came open. I knew they were one of the worst teams in the country at the time. And I knew that that the job was part-time. And so I hadn't ever really looked at it, hadn't ever really considered it. I knew about the Centennial Conference because we played several Centennial Conference teams when I was at St. Mary's down in Southern Maryland, in the Capital Athletic Conference. But at the time we were looking to move a little bit closer to family. We had family in Lansdale, just half an hour north of here. So southeastern Pennsylvania was one of our target areas that we were looking at. And when this job came open, I said, well, oh, wow, it's full time now. That's fantastic. I'm going to take a closer look. I called a good friend of mine who happened to be the athletic director at Haverford. I'd known him since I was a teenager. And I asked him if it was a position that I should consider. And he said, absolutely, it's going to be one of the best jobs in the country. And so I did a little more research. Then I realized just how strong a school Swarthmore was. I knew it was a very good school. I didn't realize it was one of the top 2 or 3 schools in the country. And so the more research I did, the more intriguing it became. And then getting on campus and talking to the coaches, Adrienne Scheibels, who's now the coach up at Bowdoin for the women's basketball team. She was our head basketball coach here. She had a lot to do with convincing me that this was an incredible place. Karen Borby, our women's lacrosse coach, really convinced me that the people here were remarkable. And of course, meeting with Adam Hertz and Bob Williams, who were the athletic director and associate athletic director in the time, they really impressed me with their professionalism, with their ambition, and really with their understanding of what Swarthmore had to offer and of what I could bring to the table. So it really was just, it was a perfect match for me. And I guess I was fortunate that I matched what they were looking for at the same time. And then one of the funniest experiences was walking into Dean Bach's office, Jim Bach, the Dean of Admissions. He was part of the interview process just to kind of explain how the admissions process worked and give me a better understanding of that. And as soon as I walked in, he immediately was kind of like stepping back. He's like, wow, you can't deny your sister, because he was classmates with my younger sister. And he was taken aback by how much I looked like her. So it was kind of interesting. It kind of made me laugh.
So, you've been here since 2002. Swarthmore soccer has been around for over 100 years, and we were able to celebrate that with, the centennial celebration. What does that connection with alumni, what does the history of Swarthmore soccer mean to you and that community that comes with it?
When I first got here and the team was so miserable, the first year we were 0-9 in the conference, and, regional rankings weren't even an afterthought at that point. It was really valuable to me to have met a couple of alums right off the bat. One of whom was the vice president of the college at the time, Larry Shaw. He's now the president at Oglethorpe University down in Atlanta. And Larry had played on the team in '74 that went to the national championship game. And I'd heard about that team, but didn't know a whole lot about the history of the program. And so I just started digging because I needed something. We needed something to be able to put out there to potential students, to prospective students, as this is what we're capable of doing. This is what this program has been in the past and what it can be in the future. And I wanted to sell the program to prospective students as, this historic and very successful program. And looking across, the athletic department at the time, Mike Mullen's team, the men's tennis team, were incredibly successful. 4 national championships, a run of something like 20 some odd consecutive NCAA tournaments. Women's tennis team was doing very well. And so there were things in our athletics program that I could point to that indicated a level of success that we could reach. And in talking with Larry Shaw, I said, okay, he took me aside after one of our particularly difficult losses. And he said, back when I was playing here, we had a great goalkeeper. We had a great center back. we had a great center midfielder, and we had an All-American striker. And we put that together with a bunch of role players on the outsides, and we were able to make that remarkable run. And so talking to Larry really gave me a foundation for what this program was all about. And then shortly thereafter, I started meeting more and more alums who live in the area or who would come to games or who would email because they were interested in what was going on. And it was clear to me that the alumni of our program, and indeed the alumni of Swarthmore in general, are unbelievably supportive, but they're also the foundation of what this school is all about. And so they're the foundation of what this program is all about. And that's why I felt it was important to celebrate it back in 2017, celebrate the 100th year of the program, and really make a note of what's gone on over these last 100 years.
Yeah.
And as a result, I think the players who are in the program now come to realize that it's not just about 25 guys getting together and kicking a ball around and playing games on Saturdays. It's really about a lot more than that. There are people who really want to see us succeed. There are people who are pulling for us. There are a lot of people for whom this program means the world. And, you know, welcoming the 74 team back last fall as they were inducted into the Garnet Hall of Fame. Geez, that was amazing. Those guys tell the stories like it was yesterday, and it means everything to them. And these guys who are on the team with them are some of their best friends. And it's a really important experience for everybody who goes through it. And so I felt that the alumni connections were absolutely critical to making this a program rather than just a group of guys getting around and kicking the ball.
Yeah. And as you continue to develop your program year after year, are there particular qualities that you're looking for in the guys that you're recruiting, either, you know, just the kind of, you know, the character or, you know, person that they are, or even just, you know, soccer specific traits that you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you hit on it right there, Brandon. The most important thing to us is character. We want people who are going to be committed, who are going to be responsible, who are going to be dependable, who are going to be of the highest level of integrity, because these are people who represent our program. This is our program. This is something that matters deeply to us in so many ways. And I want to be able to put these people out there in the world, whether it's on game day or whether it's in community service opportunities, or whether it's just meeting with our alums or walking around campus. And we want these young men to exhibit all these qualities to the highest degree, because they're a reflection of who we are and what we are. And that, at the end of the day, is the most important thing, that we have quality people who we are proud to be associated with and who we're proud to have wearing our jersey and wearing our colors and representing us. And so that's the first thing we do. When we see a player who shows skill and athleticism and ability to really shine on the field, the next thing we do is we look and see if they've got the grades to even potentially get in. And the next thing we do is dig deeper into their character and into their personal history to find out if these are people who are going to represent us well. And so I know when we bring them in here, yeah, they'll make mistakes, and they may, they may do things that aren't perfect, but that's part of growing up and part of being a college student. And that's part of our job at Swarthmore, is to help them get through those things and learn from those things. But ultimately, if they are going to represent us with integrity and a work ethic that we're proud of, then I think that's really what we're looking for. And yes, we're going to look for work ethic. We're going to look for foot skills. We're going to look for players who can play, because we play a really sophisticated game. And we ask a lot of our guys. We challenge them on the field. We challenge them in the classroom to make sure that they understand the game tactically at a very high level. And so we tend to recruit from a lot of the same clubs and a lot of the same areas, because those players have shown that they can come in here and execute our game plan.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions about professional soccer. Who, in your opinion, active or retired, would you consider to be the best soccer player that you've ever seen?
The best player I've ever seen live is Lionel Messi. I was not fortunate enough to get out and see Pele play when he was still active. I lived in the hinterlands of New England up in Maine, and we didn't get a whole lot of professional soccer games up there. So I didn't get a chance to see him when he was playing live, but certainly watched him on television. And Franz Beckenbauer, those are sort of my triple threat: Franz Beckenbauer and Lionel Messi and Pele. But there's so many qualities, Johan Cruyff and Eusebio and Vincent Kompany, and just so many other incredible players out there over the years, past, present, and still playing. That it's hard to pin it down to just one. I did an exercise on Facebook earlier this summer. A teammate of mine from college challenged me to name my favorite 10 players. And when he first asked me, I jokingly listed my 10 favorite players from our college team, and we had a good laugh about that. But that was a really interesting and difficult exercise because there are a lot of people that I left out who are amazing players. And it depends really on what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. So, speaking of Messi, I thought for a second, this week that he was going to end up on your team, Man City. Can you explain the drama that happened with that?
I guess Lionel Messi is if nothing else, he is someone who does want for people to like him, and he does want to not make a whole lot of waves at least within the world of media and publicity. And so he's tried to stay out of trouble. He's tried to stay out of the news for bad reasons and just be in the news for all the right reasons. And in this particular case, Barcelona were threatening lawsuits, and there was going to be an ugly legal battle if he had tried to get out of his contract, which he claimed and his father claimed he was legally able to get out of. But Barcelona and unfortunately the Spanish Federation said that he was not able to get out of without a 700 million euro release clause. And so he just decided, listen, you know what? I'll play out my year. I've already pissed off enough people with saying I was leaving. But I need to get out of here because it's not the best situation anymore. I think things have gotten a little difficult for him with the management and with all the changes in personnel in the front office and everything. And I also think that he really wants to finish his career on an up note with Pep Guardiola, who was his all-time favorite coach and someone he really played very well for and really worked very well with. And I think Guardiola has been trying to get him to come to Man City ever since he took the job there. So I would expect to see Messi retire from Barcelona after this season, after this coming year, and then move over to Man City to finish his career there.
And now I'm trying to remember, you had a tweet a couple years ago that went absolutely viral from a soccer game. Was that at a Man City game, or was that at another?
No, it wasn't actually. I was just beginning. I was in the second day of my sabbatical, and I was over in London. And one of our current players lived in London when he was growing up, Harry Nevins, and his parents still lived there when I was there in the spring of 2019. And Harry's dad took me to see Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspurs. And Spurs at the time were rebuilding White Hart Lane, their stadium. And so they were playing for a couple of years in Wembley, which is the national stadium in London, where the national team plays all their home games. And they were playing there. That was their home game against Arsenal, called the North London Derby. It's a very intense rivalry. And I was fortunate enough to get in there, and we were right on the edge of the Spurs section, right next to across some tarpaulins, cordoning off the visitors section.
Mm-hmm.
So the Arsenal fans, the Gunners fans were right on the other side, probably about 15 yards away from where I was. And when Arsenal scored first, the visiting fans went bananas. And it was just pretty wild. And just the sheer noise of it and the sheer excitement, and the stadium was actually rocking a little bit. So I took a little, 15-second video and posted it to Twitter and said, this is kind of cool. And there were quite a few responses to it initially, and then it just got picked up and kept going and kept going. And I think we had over 2 million views and thousands of comments and thousands of retweets. It was pretty crazy.
That's wild. Oh my gosh. I mean, soccer just, in England, I'm sure is just a completely different thing, experiencing that firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, it's as much a part of their culture and as much passion, as much excitement around it as any NFL games, any Sundays here in the States, and maybe more because, there are so many teams everywhere you go. So I was fortunate on my sabbatical to be able to watch everything from under 8, travel team kids to Champions League and national team games when I was over there, and just watching the full gamut from top to bottom of the sphere was really fascinating, because some of the games there would just be a few parents on the sidelines, and some of the games they would pack Wembley Stadium, and the tickets were selling for 70 or 80 pounds a piece. So it's just really interesting to see how broad and how robust the overall sphere is. Here football, you've got high school football and college football and the NFL, but you don't have the semi-pro and the lower level pro teams like you do in every nook and cranny of the countryside over in England and Europe in general.
And while you're on your sabbatical, you had the opportunity to do some tours and experience some things that were, developments in environmentalism and different eco-friendly things. Can you talk a little bit about some of those experiences, and then also your involvement with Garnet Go Green here on campus?
Sure. Thanks for asking. It was interesting to me to experience how far ahead of the United States Europe is in terms of just basic cost saving and energy saving, just little conveniences. For instance, lights in the hallways of hotels that turn on and off as you come in and leave. Those things are just starting to be phased in here, but they've been there for over a decade now. Little things like that. And then, just traveling around the countryside and seeing windmills everywhere and seeing solar panels on houses all over the countryside. A lot more common than what I see here. But the really interesting experience that I had was taking a train and a bus 2.5 hours west of London to really to the countryside, very rural area, and then going up to the top of a hill in this little town called Nailsworth to a borough called Forest Green. And they have a minor league football team there called Forest Green Rovers. And Forest Green had always been sort of a semi-pro team for years and years and years. And then a few years ago, a local guy who made a fortune on renewable energy company called Ecotricity, he bought his hometown club and had a great business model whereby his club would be the first, zero environmental footprint club in the world. And so through all their energy efficiencies and all the things that they've done around the club, whether it's solar panels or renewable water, reusable water, or, because they catch all the rainwater and, they get enough rain out there, to selling all vegan food, which actually is really tasty. And they've actually come up with another model. They have a catering business out of the club because their concession stands were so popular and they were selling out their food by halftime.
Wow.
So it's really been remarkable what they've been able to do. And I was able to go up to what is called the New Lawn, which is their current stadium, and have a full tour and really see what they were doing. It was fantastic. And a lot of that we were able to bring back and sort of see how we can implement on a smaller scale here at Swarthmore through the Garnet Go Green program, which is the student athlete environmental group. And over the last 5 or 6 years, we've really been able to grow that group and do a lot of neat initiatives, which I think ultimately are going to help the athletic programs here at Swarthmore become more and more environmentally friendly and help Swarthmore College achieve its goal of carbon neutrality by 2035. So.
That's great. Eric, we're getting close to the end of the interview, but I always like to ask our coaches and staff that I'm interviewing, what's something about you that we don't know, that most people wouldn't know?
Well, maybe some of you know this, but my favorite sport to play currently is ice hockey. I've been an ice hockey fan my entire life. Growing up in Maine, you can hardly miss it. I was never a good enough skater to play it at a very high level. Obviously played a lot of pickup and pond hockey growing up. But we had a 22-time state champion high school team. So, that was not in the cards for me growing up. But I've stayed in touch with the game throughout my life and followed my favorite team, the Boston Bruins. And, fortunately here in the Philadelphia area, youth and adult league hockey, ice hockey, is very popular, and there are leagues and rinks all over the place. So living here has been really exciting for me. It's a great way for my old bones to get out on the ice and get a good workout once a week. So
nice. Eric, any final thoughts before we wrap up the interview? Anything you want to share?
I just want to say thank you for having me on, Brandon, and I hope that our fans out there in Garnet world are able to stay in touch with our programs during this interesting and kind of crazy fall. We're doing a lot of things, even though we're not able to compete. So check out the website regularly, check out social media, and keep in touch with us.